If you don't know how to do your makeup, don't worry, class is in session. This is Makeup 101 and today I'm going to show you step by step on how to do your makeup as a beginner. Girls, I promise if you think you're bad at makeup, you're not. You just don't know how to do it yet. I'm going to be going over my favorite products and tips and tricks so your makeup can look like this. Trust me, once I break it down, it's a lot easier than it looks. So let's get into the video. Alright, step number one is always brows. There's many different types of brows. We have the 2016 brow, which respectfully, I hope we retired already. And then there's the more natural brow girls, but I would say I'm somewhere in between those two. I like my brows to still look feathery where you can still see my natural hairs. Now, I am forever a brow wax girl. Don't get me wrong, I've tried the gels, but nothing will do my brows as good as a brow wax. The one I'm using is from Bae Brow, and I swear by this stuff. This one is better than the Anastasia one, it's better than the e.l.f. one. Okay, look at the difference from these two sides. Somehow on this side, it magically made me look like I just have so much more brow hairs. So after I do that, I like to take my spoolie and go on top and brush everything down. Like, hello, this actually looks so good. On the days that I want a really natural makeup look, I'll just do this brow wax and not even fill in my eyebrows. Now, when it comes to filling out my brows, I like to use a brow pencil. This is the NYX Bladen shade. I kind of just like to go in and fill in spots where I feel like it's kind of sparse, mainly kind of this upper brow. As you can see, literally have no hair here. Remember when people were shaving off the ends of their brows? I mean, I guess I just kind of have that naturally. One brow done, and you can definitely see the difference. This side is just a lot more filled in. And I do like to keep my brows still looking kind of natural. You can see all the individual stroke hairs. All right, now it's time to carve out our brows. So what I like to do is I take a little bit of moisturizer and I put it underneath. This is really going to help prevent the concealer from caking up under the brows. I personally like to use the Hourglass concealer. And you want to take a flat brush that looks like this. This one is so old. I probably got this, I don't even know, when I was like in high school, and it's from e.l.f. Now you're going to take the tiniest amount of concealer. When I say tiny, I mean tiny. So however much concealer you think you're going to get, make it even less. As you can see, I barely got any concealer, but it's still creating a highlight. We're just gonna carve under the brow, and then if you want, you can also carve the top of the brow. I use such little product, but I swear it makes the biggest difference. And this is the final brows. Alright, now it's time for skin prep. If you feel like your makeup isn't makeuping the way you want it to, chances are you're just not doing your skin prep correctly. So I'm gonna go over everything that I use for skin prep. Starting off with a Superfood Air Whip Moisture Cream from You to the People. This is a very thick moisturizer, but it doesn't feel heavy when you put makeup on top. I always say this, but the more moisturized you are, the better your makeup is gonna apply on top of it. Now, my skin already leans towards the dry side, so if I don't moisturize before I put on makeup, you're gonna see probably chunks of dry skin the second I put powder on top. And then these are two serums that I applied before the video. This is the Laneige Bouncy and Firm serum, and then the Anua Peach 70 Niacin serum. I also love this stuff. This is the Rhode Glazing Milk. At first I was like, is this worth the hype? But I promise she's worth every penny. I kind of did it in the wrong order, but I would probably put this on before my moisturizer. There's usually 3 different main primers. We have blurring primers, we have very hydrating primers, and then we have sticky primers, which is my favorite. Good example of a hydrating primer, this is the Merit Great Skin Priming Moisturizer. I feel like if you're going for a clean girl look, this is probably the primer that I would go for. I mean, she's literally like moisturizer, so if you have dry skin, I would go for that. And then we have our blurring primers. I honestly don't pick up blurring primers as often, but I do love this one. This is the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Primer. If you have bigger pores, I would go for a blurring primer like this. Now, sticky primers are my absolute favorite. These are my tried and true e.l.f. Power Grips. I mean, clearly I'm almost out. Today, I'm going to be using the Refi Glow and Sculpt Primer. This primer is still sticky, but it's very hydrating, which I love. I also just love how you can roll this on your face. And if you think it's unhygienic, you can also just twist this top part off and wash it. I can kind of feel the primer getting tacky. All right, let's do the stick test. We love to see it. Okay, so the reason why we want our primer to be sticky is so that our makeup sticks onto our face all day. Trust and believe my recommendations, guys. I've gone through so many primers and these are the best of the best. Okay, here's a closer up of my skin. She looks so hydrated and glowy. So now we can move on to the rest of our base. Similar to primers, there's also a lot of different types of foundations. We have kind of like the BB creams where there's SPF in it. We have skin tints. There's matte foundations and there's also dewy foundations. Obviously, different ones are good for different occasions. If I were going to somewhere like the beach or like a picnic, I don't know, some sort of outdoor activity, I'd probably just go for the skin tint or BB cream. If we want a little bit more coverage, I would pick a foundation that's either matte or dewy. Obviously, if you have oily skin, I would go for a matte foundation, but I personally like to go for a more dewy foundation just because I do layer a lot of powder over my makeup. going to be using the House Labs one. This is literally one of my favorite foundations of all time. Super hydrating, super dewy. There's different ways when it comes to picking out your foundation shade. You can either match it directly to your face or you can match it to your neck. Typically, I like to go a little bit darker when it comes to my foundation because I feel like the concealer really brightens up my whole face. So you can blend out your foundation either using a brush or a sponge. Guys, please don't judge me. I need to wash this so badly. I'll blend out my forehead using a brush just to kind of show you guys. The brush is really nice to use when you want more coverage. Just because the brush bristles doesn't soak up the product like how a sponge does. Like, girl, that is full coverage. I personally like using a sponge. I just feel like it's a lot faster. You want to make sure the sponge is damp, and if it's not damp, take some setting spray and just kind of spray the sponge. And always tap your foundation in. Do not please swipe as you're trying to blend. And always make sure you blend it down your neck. You can swipe for this part just because we do not want to look crazy. For me at least, my foundation shade is always different from my neck, so I have to blend it out. Time for concealer. I'm going to be using the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Concealer. One of my favorite concealers ever. It's just so creamy but not extremely thick. When it comes to placement, you don't want to just like swipe the concealer everywhere. Trust me, a little bit goes a long way. Because the concealer is also going to be lighter than the foundation, it'll also serve as a highlight. So I like to put a little bit under the inner corners of my eyes. Sometimes I also like putting it right here on the outer corner of my eye. It'll kind of give that snatched vibe. I like to put a little bit on my chin. Then I'll just do the same on the other side. I swear when I was younger, I literally used to draw a gigantic triangle. It was just too much. Same thing with concealers. You can blend it out using a brush or a sponge. I actually love this brush. This is an Hourglass concealer brush. I'm such a sponge girl, but I love this, you guys. Like, look at how that's blending my concealer out. I would recommend to tap in your concealer with the brush instead of doing swipes like this. I feel like the moral of the story is tap, not swipe. I do like to lightly go over it with a sponge after just to kind of make sure everything is set in. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the placement of my concealer really does snatch my whole face. Now it's time for cream contour and blush. Starting off with contour, you might be wondering what the difference between contour and bronzer is. The best way to describe it is I feel like contour is what's going to sculpt and chisel your face versus bronzer is what's going to give you that sun-kissed glow. Typically that's under your cheekbones right here, or maybe it's your jawline. What I usually like to do is I use cream contour and I do powdered bronzer. This is the Anastasia Shadow Smooth Blur Contour. This is some of the best contour stick that I've used in a while. I swear this is a key to getting a good contour. You want to put it on your hand first and then take a sponge and then tap it into your sponge. I feel like this will give you the most seamless finish instead of just kind of directly applying it onto your face like that. And then when you apply it, it just looks so nice and natural. It's not too harsh. You guys see how immediately it's snatching up my face more? I swear guys, the power of makeup is crazy. I also like to add some on my forehead right here. Okay, we love to see it. Same with cream blush. I like to apply it with my sponge. Today I'm going to be using the Patrick Ta Duo. Oh my god, this is so dirty. This is in the shade She Goes to the Gym, and I like to focus my blush honestly on the corner of my eye here, going up towards my brow bone. Where you place your blush will kind of change the way your face looks. I find that this blush placement is the most flattering on my face. Some people like to apply their blush on the apples of their cheeks, but I find that it really drags my face down when I do that. I also really like applying a little bit on the tip of my nose. It kind of gives you a little sun-kissed vibe. Time for powder products. We're going to start with setting powder. Setting powder will tie in your whole makeup look together. I'm very picky about setting powder, so these are my two favorites. One's drugstore and one's high-end. We have the Huda Beauty Easy Bake, and then we have the Maybelline Fit Me. Personally, I think nothing really can beat Huda Beauty's Easy Bake powder. I've tried so many different powders, and I just feel like this one is the best of the best. And then I'll take a powder puff. This one is huge. You do not have to use a powder puff that's this huge, but I'll tap it and then kind of spread it out on the back of my hand just to evenly distribute the product, and then tap it under my eyes. Oh my god. And personally, what I like to do is honestly just tap it throughout my whole face. Some people like using a brush. I like mine to be very full coverage, which is why I use a powder puff. This is with the powder, and without the powder, I mean the difference is huge. This is also why I like to start off with a very dewy base, just because I do pack on a lot of powder after. Alright, face is set. Now we can jump into powder, blush, and bronzer. Like I said earlier, I like to use cream contour, but powder bronzer. This one is my favorite. This is a Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. Like, it's so big. I swear the last one that I had lasted me 2 years. I like to just take a brush and kind of dab it in a little bit. With everything that I do, work it on the back of my hand, and then focus it kind of in between where I put the cream blush and contour. And with bronzer, you can put it more on your cheeks. You cannot do that with contour. I also like to put it on my forehead. I kind of put it all over my forehead, to be honest. I feel like that always makes the biggest difference. Like, it looks like I've just been under the sun. Blend, blend, blend. I also kind of like to take a bigger brush like this and kind of bring it on the sides of my nose a little bit. Now, instead of using bronzer, you can always use contour and kind of snatch up your nose, but my personal preference is to use a bronzer for that. And I also like to take my bronzer and put it on my eyelids. One thing about me is that I'm not an eyeshadow girl. Once in a blue moon, I'll do a fun eyeshadow look, but it's definitely not my expertise. My focus has always been the base and my eyes are just kind of like the background. And this is just also such a great hack, like on a day-to-day basis, like you don't really need an eyeshadow palette. Like, girl, just use your bronzer. And it's so easy. I feel like it just creates the perfect amount of depth to your eyes. Okay, get ready. I'm gonna push you guys onto one of my favorite blushes ever. These are the Rare Beauty Matte Bounty blushes, and oh my god, I don't know how she formulated this product, but it's so perfect. It's so beginner friendly, and I'll kind of explain to you guys why. First things first, take a blush brush. This is a Fenty blush brush. I love this one. It's a little bit more dense. So these are a matte bouncy blush. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. If I really wanted to, I could push my finger in this as hard as I can. It will kind of start molding as if it's clay, but because it's not a traditional powder blush, it's never gonna get chalky. So you literally can swirl your brush on this as much as you can, and when you apply it, look how pretty that is. Once again, I like to focus my blush, honestly kind of starting from the apples but upwards towards my brow bone. Right now I'm using the shade Hope as the base. Something that I've been really into is also red blush, so I'm going to layer a little bit of this shade. This is in Grateful. Also, something that I discovered is that these also apply really nicely, like just on top of cream products without setting powder. I promise this isn't sponsored. I feel like I'm talking as if it's sponsored. I'm just very passionate about that blush, and then I like to go over with my powder puff just a few times, and that is pretty much it for my base. Now we're gonna jump into eyeliner. I swear eyeliner can change your entire eye shape. Personally, I like an eyeliner that I feel like can really snatch up my eyes and give me that cat eye vibe. And you guys see my lower lash line? I'll basically just follow that line going up. It honestly took me a while to figure out how I like to do my liquid liner. So I'll start with a line like that, and then I'll connect it starting from the outer corner of my eye, and voila, literally just all right. I'm gonna quickly do my other eye. And we're done. There's two different kinds of setting sprays. There's more matte setting sprays and there's more dewy finish setting sprays. So I would recommend you guys to use a more dewy setting spray if you feel like you added a little bit too much powder and you just kind of want to melt your powder or your makeup together into your face. Now this setting spray, on the other hand, my hands are so oily. Okay, one side's on till dawn. This stuff, one side's come to the front. Your makeup will not budge whatsoever. Honestly, the best way I can describe this is that it's like hairspray, but I'm pretty sure this was inspired by drag queens because they used hairspray on your face to make their makeup last. We've reached the end, guys. Now it's time for lips. Let's finally take my hair out. I'm going to share with you guys my current favorite lip combo and how to line your lips. First things, we want to start off with a good base. If you feel like you have dry skin on your lips, please exfoliate that. Personally, I think the best way to do your lip liner is to use two different lip liners. I just find that it looks the best and it creates more of a gradient with contour, especially if you want to use a darker lip liner. Here I have two different shades. These are both Makeup Forever lip liners, and you guys, these are some of the best lip liners ever. So we have one that's more of a pinky nude shade, and then we have one that's like a more of a darker brown. I'm first starting with the shade Wherever Walnut, just kind of lining my lips just a little bit bigger than my natural lips. I don't want to make my lips look too big. And then for this lighter color, I'll work it more into the center of my lips. And then I'm going to take the darker shade. This is in Limitless Brown, and I'm going to put this at the very edge of my lips, just like that. And you guys see how it's creating such a nice gradient? Sometimes I feel like when I just go in directly with this color, it looks a little bit crazy. Trust me, guys, I've gotten so many compliments every time I wear this lip combo. I usually like to top my lips with some sort of a gloss or lip oil. Today I'm going to be using the Buxom Plumping Lip Oil in the shade Berry Blast. I love using a more berry toned lip oil or lip gloss. I don't really know why, I just feel like it brings life back into my face. Oh my god, and this one smells so good. I also really love this lip oil from Revolution. This is in the shade Berry Mauve. Again, a berry tone, but this one's a little bit more purpley. Oh my god, love. Every time I wear this lip combo, I'm like, it looks so good. And we've reached the end of this tutorial. What do you guys think about this final look? I love it. Every time I have some sort of event or I'm going out, this is always a go-to makeup look that I do. Keep in mind though, it took me years to get to a point where I feel like I really knew what to do when it comes to my makeup. And everyone has their own preferences. This is just what I like to do when it comes to doing my makeup. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and I hope it helped you out. I would love to hear what some of your guys' makeup tips are, so make sure to comment that below. And let me know what video you guys would like to see from me next. But I love you guys so much and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!